Hello. Day two. Okay, is this familiar to you? This right here. This is what we looked at yesterday. This second page right here. And then this, we didn't really look at this page much over here because it's the same information. But remember down here, we did talk about everything we are doing is leading up to our Super Bowl, the AP test. What day is it on? Did you have to just look? I have it covered, suckers. Okay, now you can look. May 10th. Get it in your head now. May 10th, May 10th, May 10th. Yeah? Okay. If you scroll down here, if you have this pulled up at the same time, to page 4 and 5. We're going to be learning these two pages all year long. It's not a bad idea to print this information, copy this information, and keep it in your notes. It's not. You don't have to, because it'll always be here on Canvas. Again, I told you I'm going to upload this into the yearly information, the very first module that you see at the top of the page. Okay, so this will always be on Canvas. But if you want a hard copy in your spiral or notebook or whatever, it's not a bad idea. Because again, we're going to learn this all year. You have to know how to write in an AP class. And you have to know how to write at a college level. Okay, you learn that in English. Yeah. Later. See, the problem for me as a sophomore AP class is that you haven't learned this stuff yet. So not only do I have to teach you history, but I also have to teach you how to deep think, analyze, and I have to teach you how to put a college level essay together. Now, when you learn this in English, they may teach you there's all different like little mnemonic devices like this. Okay, I use T.C.E.A.S.Y, or some kid last year said T.C.C. Okay, whatever. That's what I use because it follows the actual rubric that is used for the World History AP test. Okay, you may learn C.X.A.B.Y when you're in English class next year. That's fine. It's all the same stuff. It's just called different things. Does that make it harder? Yeah. But you don't have to worry about it till next year. See? So, what I use, like I said, because it follows the actual rubric that is used for the AP test, I use T.C.E.A.S.Y for you to remember the right way to write, for you to remember the correct way to write. Okay? T.C.E.A.S.Y. There's no other way for you to learn this other than just drill it into your head. T.C.E.A.S.Y. T.C.E.A.S.Y. That's how I learned it. You're all going to feel stupid whenever I have you do this in class once I see you. And that's okay. I mean, I feel stupid doing this by myself. But there's, like, how you may not be able to remember anything for school, but you can remember every song lyric from every song that you love. Why? Because when you put things to a rhythm, it gets stuck in your head. It just does. It's true. So if you want to remember T.C.E.A.S.Y with T.C.C, that's cool. That's fine. Please remember T.C.C are two different letters. T.C.C, two different letters. That's the concern I have with kids saying T.C.C. It's not T.E.E. Oh, T.C.E.E. Okay? Just learn the letters. T.C.E.A.S.Y. Look, I'm not looking at it, and I know it. T.C.E.A.S.Y. Why? Because I've done this over and over again. This is how you write a correct paper. You have a T, thesis. You have a C, context. You have an E, evidence. You have an A, analysis. You have the hardest part, the S, synthesis. And then the why. Why does it matter? It's your conclusion, basically. T.C.E.A.S.Y. Learn it. Thesis sentence. This is just an intro, guys. We are going to do, we're going to work on the thesis for the entire first historical unit. We'll work on context for the entire second unit, evidence for the third, fourth. All right. So this is lasting us all year long. It's easier if you just get it in your head now. T.C.E.A.S.Y. That's how I learned it. Rhythmically. I was trying to say rhythmatically. What? Rhythmically. T.C.E.A.S.Y. T.C.E.A.S.Y. The EAS is fast because it all kind of happens at the same time in the body paragraph. T.C. intro. EAS body paragraphs. Y conclusion. T.C.E.A.S.Y. You feel stupid, but do it with me anyway. It's more fun when we're in class and we can do it together. It's weird. I do feel stupid. T.C.E.A.S.Y. 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 I hope this gets stuck in your head. T.C.E.A.S.Y. Do it with me. I know you're not doing it. You're sitting there just watching me laughing. Do it with me or you're not going to learn it. T.C.E.A.S.Y. 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 I did have some kids last year who were actually learning the whole words that way. Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? T.C.E.A.S.Y. You got to get these in your head. T.C.E.A.S.Y. Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? And again, we do these parts faster because they all go together. I just noticed you could also learn it TC, easy. It's an actual word. Easy. I never even noticed that before. TC, easy. TC, easy. Okay, I've given you multiple things. T.C.E.A.S.Y. Or, I just learned this, TC, easy. Or, thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? That's what I'm going to have you do in class once I see you. Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? You want to keep doing it? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? It's hard at first because there's all these words are like big words. So, thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? You're like, what are these words? Well, I'm glad you asked. The thesis is the argument, the main idea of your entire paper. In the, what did I just do? In the example I used, well, for you yesterday, for me about 10 minutes ago, let's say the test question is, to what extent did attitudes toward atomic weapons change after World War II? Your thesis is, attitudes after World War II changed toward atomic bombs. It's what your paper is about. Now, there's more to a thesis, and I'm going to go over it, like how to actually write it and all that, okay? But not yet. All right? T.C.E.A.S.Y. 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 You do it. Did you do it? Or did you just look at me? T.C.E.A.S.Y. Even if you're doing it in your head. Because I know you're like, my brother is right next to me, and that's embarrassing. It's okay. In your head, just be like, yeah, okay. Context. Oof. Context should be really easy, but I've noticed the last 2 years, kids have struggled with context. Context is what is going on in the world. What's going on? You know how Star Wars starts just in the middle? Think about the movies of Star Wars. It just starts in the middle of a war, and you're like, what's the context? It's all those words at the beginning that tell you what in the world's going on. If I just say, I don't know, a third of the European population died suddenly in 1348, you're like, wow, that's bad. But what happened? Context is the Black Death swept across Europe, and there was no understanding of the disease. There were no vaccinations or medicines. There was no cleanliness. People were living crammed together in terrible like what's the word, sanitation situations. Now you have some context as to why a third of the European population died fairly suddenly in 1348. Context is what else is going on in the world. If you just write, people's attitudes changed toward atomic bombs because a lot of people died at Hiroshima. Okay, that's your thesis, but Frey's going into her bedroom. But what's the context? Well, World War II. You need to talk about what's going on. That's context. Okay? All right, back up here. And I promise y'all, we're going to have entire lessons over these. You're like, oh, yay. We will. Because if you can't do this, you are not going to get even a 2 on the AP test. You're going to get a 1. You have to be able to do this. Okay. Say it with me. Thesis, context, evidence analysis, synthesis, why. Look at the paper if you need to. Thesis, context, evidence analysis, synthesis, why. Thesis, context, evidence analysis, synthesis, why. Thesis, context, evidence analysis, synthesis, why. Okay, your body paragraphs are going to be the EAS kind of all mixed together. It's not like you don't do your evidence, then analysis, then synthesis. They all get mixed together. And I'll explain how, I promise. This is just intro telling you what all this stuff is. Okay? Evidence. These are your proofs. If you said in your thesis, attitudes changed to atomic weapons after World War II because people saw having an atomic weapon as being powerful. Okay, now prove it. Prove why anybody who had an atomic weapon was seen as powerful. Prove it. These are your proofs, your evidence. In theory, you want to have 3. You want to have for sure two. If you don't have at least two, you're not going to do okay. You're not going to get a three on the AP test. You want to, in a perfect world, have three of these proofs, at least two. Okay. Well, I was going to say something else, but that's okay. Analysis goes with it. Analysis is where you really do your deep thinking. This is your deepest part of the thinking. If this is a DBQ document, if this is a DBQ question, a document-based question, you're looking at where did the documents come from? Who is speaking? In the document you're reading, are you reading a document written by someone who was in Hiroshima and was bombed? Or are you reading a document written from a US point of view? Because those are going to have very different viewpoints. A US point of view is probably going to say, yeah, power. Someone who was actually bombed in Hiroshima is going to say, you guys suck. Very different viewpoints. That's where you're looking at that. Okay, look, this is the hardest part. That's not true. Synthesis is really the hardest part right here. But analysis is hard. And that's what this entire page right here is. HIP. When you analyze a document, you HIP it. You're like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into with AP? You got yourself into high level, upper level thinking, which isn't just going to help you with history. It's going to help you with English next year, probably English this year too. Because y'all do this in English. I just don't know if they call it this. Okay. You're good. You got yourself in a good place with AP, I promise. As long as you do the work. So analysis is the hard part, but it's not the hardest part. You're like, yay! Guys, I promise every unit you're learning each one of these. So it's okay. All right, it's okay. Synthesis is where you synthesize, you bring it together. Synthesis could be what's called a counter argument. If your thesis says people viewed countries that had atomic weapons as powerful after World War II, somewhere in your paper you say, although people felt like countries that had atomic weapons were powerful, there were some who believed they were just big bullies. As document 10 shows, written by a man who was actually bombed in Hiroshima, he doesn't see the US as being powerful because they have a weapon that can destroy the whole city. He sees them as, and you give the opposite viewpoint. You don't want to do this too much, because if you do it too much, then you're not proving your side. But you do want to give a counter argument. Do the opposite of what you were asked. If your essay question asks you to compare, at least somewhere in your paper, contrast. If your question asks you to, cause and effect, I just saw it there. If your question asks you to look at the causes of something, show me an effect. If it asks you for, right here, how something changes over time, show how it stays the same. That's called continuity. That's another word that you'll learn. Continuity. Show me how it stays the same also. There's different ways to do synthesis. I personally think the easiest is counter argument. Do the opposite of what you've been asked at least once. And then the last thing. Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis. Why? You gonna do it with me? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis. Why? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis. Why? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis. Why? You have got to learn these or you will not get your credit. Yeah? The last part is the conclusion, the why. Why does it all matter? Honestly, you're probably not going to have time to do this on the test. The test is timed. Each essay is timed. If you have time to do a conclusion, great. Part of me at your age, I'm not dissing you, but since this is your first time to do this, part of me is like, well, if they have time to do a conclusion, did they analyze deep enough? I hope so. When I was in college, my very first year that I had any upper level history class, I took medieval history with Professor Coombs. I loved him. I had him for 4 classes. Medieval history, um, Nazi, that sounds bad, Nazi, but it's the rise of Nazi Germany. I had him for Greece and Rome, I think. He was the teacher I had the most. My very first class with him was medieval history. Very first midterm I ever took in an upper level class. The question was basically, tell me what you learned so far. And I was like, oh, shoot. So I started writing. We only had 2 hours or 3 hours, 2 or 3, I don't remember, but 2 or 3 hours. And I will never forget this, you guys. There was a guy who finished, and I looked at that guy who took his test up to Professor Coombs, and I was like, I was just like some of you feel sometimes where you're holding your pen like, and you look at your paper and you're like, all I've done is my introduction. Oh, crap. And I watched Professor Coombs look at his watch, write the time on the top of this test. And then he wrote an F. He didn't read it. And I was like, and then I started writing, right? And then another guy comes up, gives him his test, Professor Coombs. Time? F. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail. Well, at the end of the 2 or 3 hours, again, I don't remember how long, Professor Coombs says, okay, you guys, the 10 of you that are left in this class, hands down, time's up. And I was like, I didn't finish. He said, all of you passed. To what degree? I don't know. He said, I have to read your essays. Did you get a C, a B, or an A? I don't know. But all of you passed. And I remember there was this guy that sat down there from me and he was like, sir, I saw you putting F's. I don't understand. And Professor Coombs said this: if you couldn't write everything that you learned in a whole semester, well, half a semester, in 2 hours, then you didn't learn enough. And I was sitting there like, oh, okay. So I do kind of wonder, there's no points for this on the AP test. There's no points. There's no point for a conclusion. Do I care if you put a conclusion on your AP test? Now, that's the way correct writing is. So when you write an essay for me, yeah, you better have a conclusion because it's not timed. But on the AP test, there's no point for it. So worry about the EAS, the evidence analysis and synthesis, because you only have, what is it, 60 minutes. worry about that. Okie dokie. Think you can do T.C.E.A.S.Y without looking? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? 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 When you're in the shower and you're just doing your hair, just think. Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? I promise you'll learn it if you practice. This last page right here, hip. I told you already, this is how you deeply analyze a document. I'm going to go into this a lot more later, okay? But I'm sorry. But HIP stands for historical situation, intended audience, who's the document intended for, purpose, what's the purpose of the document, and point of view of the author. Don't worry much about this page, okay? Because again, it directly goes with oh my gosh, there we go. It directly goes with analysis. So when I teach analysis in, like, I don't know, unit 5 or something, whatever it is, that's when we're going to pull this back out and really look at it. Right now, it's here, it's ready for you when we need it, but I'm not going to go into it yet. T.C.E.A.S.Y, T.C.E.A.S.Y, T.C.E.A.S.Y. Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? Thesis, context, evidence, analysis, synthesis, why? Start learning it now. Okay. Okay. All right. That's it.